This is a minefield. One wrong step, and you can be blown to pieces. I'm about to step into a political and cultural minefield. I'm going to talk about Kamala Harris, her gender, her race, so-called Christians, and the 2024 election. Any one of those could be a political or cultural minefield, but I'm going to keep on stepping.
So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Donald Trump's racist insult to the biracial lineage of Kamala Harris is nothing new. Racism has been a key to Trump's political success. Misogyny, hatred for women, has been another winner for the con man and convicted felon. Trump's mostly white, mostly male, sexually insecure, woman-hating cult loved his 2015 comment on CNN.
You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
Donald Trump's contempt for women is lifelong. In a 1992 interview with New York Magazine, Trump said, "You have to treat women like shit." That was 32 years ago. He hasn't changed. That was evident from Trump on the infamous Access Hollywood tape.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
Trump's caveman attitude is very appealing to rude, crude, sexually insecure hetero men who are flops with the opposite sex. Their notion of an ideal woman is the late Marilyn Monroe. She was a voluptuous symbol of insatiable sex in the 1950s and 60s. Nowadays, many MAGA men are in a rage that more women are not eager to go to bed with them. For these social knuckle-draggers, women are conquests. They see women as sex objects who are only good for satisfying the sex urges of men. These guys remember Hans and Franz. They were a pair of satirical bodybuilders in Saturday Night Live comedy sketches nearly 40 years ago. The Hans and Franz characters had contempt for so-called wimpy, girly men. To this day, the Make America Great Again macho men worry someone might view them as wimpy, girly men. Many men in Trump's cult have no sex life and harbor envious, angry visions of what they don't have. The current term for them is incel, or involuntarily celibate. They're angry. They're angry at women. They can't stomach the idea that women might have power of any kind, sexual, cultural, economic, or political. Trump deliberately fans the flames of their anger and nurtures the fantasy that they are an oppressed minority. As the election approaches, Trump is directing that frustration at Kamala Harris, a former sex crimes prosecutor who refuses to take the bait.
Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Kamala Harris is loathed and despised by a powerful right-wing voting bloc, so-called Christian nationalists. These alleged Bible believers hate Harris because she has and she exerts power. Some of them use verses in the Bible to attack Harris.
But I think it's pretty clear that the Bible teaches us that women should not be in authority over a man.
That Ohio ex-high school football coach is referring to one line in the Bible from the first epistle of Timothy, 2nd chapter, verse 12. "But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence." The Bible has plenty of misogynistic contempt verses toward women. In the Bible, God is always a he. God is described as a trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, an all-male deity, no women. Fundamentalists and religious conservatives take this to mean that in God's view, women are not as important as men. The late former Christian evangelist Charles Templeton wrote, "The Bible is a book by and for men. The women in it are secondary creatures and usually inferior. Women are often depicted in the Bible as evil, seductive temptresses, such as Delilah in the story of Samson and Delilah. Another biblical temptress was Jezebel, a one-time queen of Israel who was murdered for having and using political clout. Today's power-hungry neo-fascists, who are mock Christians, have been referring to Kamala Harris as having what they call the Jezebel Spirit.
She represents something which I believe is probably the amalgam of the spirit of Jezebel, and in a way that'll be even more ominous than Hillary, because she'll bring a racial component and she's younger.
Kamala Harris is somebody who's not competent to be president of the United States and has a very evil, wicked, Jezebelian agenda. So don't underestimate her Jezebel spirit.
And what if something happens to him and Jezebel has to take over? Jezebel Harris.
Confederate slave-owning white men used to refer to their black women slaves as Jezebels. They concocted a fantasy that black women slaves had an insatiable desire for sex that their white owners needed to satisfy. It was a way to rationalize repeatedly raping female slaves. So-called Christian nationalists, many of them women-hating misogynists, frequently invoke the Jezebel image when referring to feminist women. There's even a word for hating black women, misogynoir. Religion writer Sarah Bessey says, when a woman exhibits leadership, she's accused of having that Jezebel spirit.
Kamala will not be your first female president. She will not be your first female president.
We are not going back. We are not going back. Not going back. We're not going back. We are not going back.
Kamala Harris has made impressive gains in the polls, which frightens Trump more than most people know. But it's still going to be a close election, with or without the Jezebel spirit. I'm Vince Wade.